All right. Look at here, look at here. Okay, welcome everyone. So usually on a show like this, I just like to cover the fights that happened over the weekend. We are going to do that. Going to look very quickly at your co-main event. Well, actually not your co-main event. Going to look at the Misha Cirkunov win because I didn't catch it in real time and I saw it afterwards and it was amazing. People were blowing me up about it. And then of course the Anthony Smith finish as well. Here's the thing. I can't come up here and not talk about Ben Askren. You have to get to Ben Askren, right? But I thought, what am I going to do? Because I want to give a special shout out to somebody. He's not even involved in the company, but the work is so good, it would be promotional malpractice for me to not mention it. BJJ Scout, if you guys have never heard of him, you can check him out on YouTube. It does a lot of BJJ scouting, but it's a lot more than that. It's a lot of striking, it's a lot of wrestling. He has done I think it's probably the best work he's ever done, to be quite honest, or she, whoever it is. It's a 5-part breakdown of Ben Askren's game, all the way from cross-body rides to mat returns to wrist control to some of the metagame that he incorporates. I can't possibly match that either in this format or any other one. So I strongly encourage you to go watch that. But I thought, what could I make use of for today? The big knock on Ben Askren, such as it exists, is allegedly the Luis Santos fight. Now, this was the one that ended in the first round with an eye poke. They tried to make a rematch. Santos ended up duffing on the whole thing, and they never did. It's the one no contest on Ben Askren's otherwise flawless record. And there's an interesting vibe that's happening around Ben Askren. It's almost like a combination of two different worlds. So on the one hand, do you remember before the UFC 229 main event between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor, a lot of folks were saying, oh man, Michael Johnson, he really tuned Khabib up. He really got after him. And then you go back and you look at the footage and you're like, well, he did land some nice shots, but this is way overblown, totally overblown. The reality was Khabib Nurmagomedov headed into that Conor McGregor fight as a fighter who'd never been knocked down or knocked out, including that Michael Johnson fight. They were just, yes, he got hit with some good shots, no doubt about it, but it was way overblown. So it's partly that. People are taking this Luis Santos fight, and there are some criticisms to make of it, but they're way overblowing some of the results here. On the other side, you're getting a bit of this Nick Newell vibe, where people are saying, I don't know how good he is. We can't wait to find out. We won't only know if he gets a chance to compete, which I generally agree with. Like, how good is he? I think he's very good, but the reality is until he gets a chance to test himself against the very best in a contemporary way, there's no way to know. He was fighting some of the best years ago in Bellator, like Douglas Lima, and he had no problems, but today's a different day, right? So that's the issue. He's coming to it from two different spots. So I'm going to show you Ben Askren basically at his alleged worst. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because if this is his worst, the arguments against him are not very good. Luis Santos has, 80 professional fights, something like that, nearly that. Never fought in the UFC. I'm not presenting him as the world's toughest welterweight. Here's what I am going to say. Like the Michael Johnson fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov, if that's the most negative thing you can say about him, there are some negative things to say, but they're not that serious. Let's go to the tape here if we can a little bit. I'm not going to show the whole thing. The quality is not great because your boy had to, work some magic on the internet to find some of this footage, if you know what I'm saying. But here we have, it's Luis Santos, it's Ben Askren. All right, Ben fails to get the takedown, total that alleged eye poke. And folks are going to say, well, what happened between then? What you're going to notice is Askren's always in this orthodox stance. And what he's really looking for is he'll shoot a double on occasion, especially if he's against the fence. But he's always looking for upper body ties, either from a 50-50 or if you give him double unders, forget about it. But he's always looking for that 50-50, much like Khabib Nurmagomedov. If you recall, Khabib Nurmagomedov against Darrell Horcher, they had 50-50, but Khabib was able to take his own elbow, even with the underhook on this side from Horcher, and then just pin it to his own body, gable grip, and then take him over that direction. Ben Askren is very similar in that regard. So let's just go through this a little bit. You're going to notice that Luis Santos does successfully defend the takedown here. A lot of it is throwing kicks, which I don't think is really all that smart. You could say, well, he got away with it, but I don't think that's going to go all that well. As a strategy, I don't think it's a good idea. And what you're going to notice is Ben is really good about ducking punches. He's really good about timing when someone leaves their balance to get a strike involved. To get a takedown involved. And this guy's coming. He's telegraphing from one side. Ben shoots to the other side here, wraps up with him. And then you're going to see he's going to try, Santos is going to try and get a, so let me go through this one more time. But Askren here wants the body lock, can't get it. He's going to come around the corner to get a double. This whizzer is going to save him. This is going to be Santos. Plants his hand on the mat, keeps his hips facing the mat. Now you see Askren coming over, switching the takedowns here, looking to drive him in the opposite direction. You can see he's got the body lock here. And what Santos is going to do, a bit of an Uchimata throw here while his weight is going forward. This is a nice counter from Santos, but I want to point this out. It puts him here. They go to the thing, and I'm doing frame by frame here, so chill out, 1FC, or whatever, one. And you see him go to deep half, right? Now he's threatening deep half on the other side. So even though he's been countered, Askren is working underneath. Look, he's being protected. He's not hardly taking any damage. He's now looking, Santos is, to separate the head from the body. He's got the overhook here, but this won't save you. Now, ultimately, Askren bails on it. He takes to an elbow and gets back to his hands, all right, and his knees, tries to re-go for like a low single here just to hang on, and it doesn't work. Now, folks will say, boy, doesn't that speak poorly of Ben? I would say the opposite. I would say, yes, he got countered, and that's not great. But number one, that's a high-energy throw. Number two, he took no damage. And number three, you can see how fast he goes from a body lock to a double to another kind of body lock trip to then deep half, and the whole time he's making you move. So, yes, that was a failed takedown attempt, and then, of course, you get that. Let's fast forward here just a little bit if we can. Let's go to something else. I got a bunch of these. I don't want to go through all of them. All right, here's another one, all right? So they're standing out here. What happens? Askren waits, boom, goes to the opposite side, takes a bit of a shot there to the body, but he's on the other side, so it's less impactful. Gets his hands around it. Now, Santos is strong in this position, and he's going to be able to counter even with double overhooks to get a trip. Plants his hand on the mat, which is correct. And what do you always want to do? You want to have your hips facing the mat, which he does. He comes over like this. Askren gets that right knee inside, which saves him from getting mounted. But you're going to notice, once again, already looking for like a borderline waiter sweep at this point. He's going to get underneath here. He's going to pull it over him. And now he's going to begin to do more work. What's this going to do? He's going to then come around the other side. He's going to look for a funk roll here. Let me fast forward just a little bit. Right, here we are. You see him. He's going to have this leg. He wants to be able to turn. Askren does. He wants to be able to turn base down, which you'll see in just a minute. Right, here we are. This is the funk roll he's looking for. Now, Santos is holding that bottom leg with two hands, because if you can keep his legs separated, that's going to give him the ability to come straight out. It's when the legs get locked up that you can get caught and something else can happen. So he's got the right defense. He's preventing any kind of lock from happening. Askren wants to roll over here. Kind of can't because he's kind of trapped as well. So he comes back the other way, decides to go for a heel hook, and eventually, Santos is able to get the knee past the hip line and then basically just stand out as Askren lets go. So you're going to say once again, oh, Luke, this is terrible for Ben. Right. It's a failed takedown. That's right. It's not his best moment. I agree. But what I'm pointing out is he can do this all day long without really getting tired, and he's taking no damage. And by the way, even if he gets underneath, he's immediately working. By the way, here's the other component here. He's able to establish contact every time. He's getting either double unders or he's getting 50-50 every time. Every time he's getting it. Here's another one. Let's see what happens here. Kind of fakes, punches his way in. This is the one I didn't like, right? Comes up underneath, collar ties here a little bit, right? Punches his way through. And here kind of does a Randy Couture bit where he does just some dirty boxing. Takes a little more punishment here than I would like. And you can see he just punches his way through here, right? That's what he's doing as I go frame by frame and not play the video. Right? Frame by frame here. See, this I didn't like. But he also appears to have a really good chin. Let's fast forward just a little bit more because I don't want to spend too much time on this. This is the one where he ultimately apparently pokes him in the eye. Let me get out of the way here so you can see, right? Fishing for the hands. He's got good distance. He's going to, look at his timing here. He waits, gets out of the way of the punch, and then immediately wraps up. Bit like Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey would wait for the punch and then throw what people call a hanger over the top or some kind of like hook around the top of the head. In judo, they'll grab the lapel here, and then they'll grab the lapel here. They'll also grab the lapel at the top, right where the tag of a BJJ too. They'll grab the tag. You can really, you can yank, especially with two hands. So if you have like a collar and then a sleeve, you can do a lot of snap downs or whatever. He comes in and he immediately changes the angle. Now Santos thinks his eyes have been damaged, and he goes down. So you're going to say, Luke, why did you show me all this footage about Ben Askren that's supposed to make him look bad? Remember what the argument is. The argument is this is, by all accounts, the worst Ben Askren has ever looked. This is the bottom, right? This is as low as it gets, allegedly, for him. Ladies and gentlemen, if that's the worst it gets for you, you're doing great. Trust me, you're doing great. Now, what does that portend for the elite of the division? It'll be hard to say. But here's my point. Once he gets wrapped up on you, he can switch takedowns over and over and over again. If he gets countered with a throw, like an Uchimata or something else, he can work underneath very quickly. He's known for the funk rolls that you saw there before. Santos had a good game plan around it. He took no damage. He came back and found a way to get the takedown. This guy ultimately duffed on the rematch, by the way, not Askren. And it was only about 2.5 minutes. Khabib Nurmagomedov misses on a lot of his takedown attempts. It's just that once he gets it and gets you down, it's a wrap for you. It's the same for him. So how good is Ben Askren? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But if that's the very worst he's ever looked, that is not a strong argument that this is a talent that is not good. I would argue just the opposite. If this is your low light, you're a damn good fighter. It's my argument. Now, with that out of the way, with the time we have remaining, so we have, let's jump to UFC Moncton. 2 fights we'll show here very, very quickly. Here's Anthony Smith taking on Volkan Oezdemir. Quick caveat, Smith does some things here that are by the textbook not quite correct. But what I wanted to make a note of is that if you're as tired as he was and as hurt as he was, it's not that they don't matter because it's like, what is correct versus not correct? Correct is about what is ultimately successful at a high percentage. So like, correct is what is hard to break. Correct is what finishes easily. Correct is what makes you balanced. So it's not correct as in like, oh, we needed to look correct for artsy's sake. There's a functional assessment there involved in that grade of correct or not correct. But it doesn't matter because he gets the job done, and I'm not going to dock him for it. I just sort of want to point that out. He doesn't do everything altogether all that great. So this is a nice double. He does it's actually not double, excuse me, it's a knee tap, right? He has the underhook here. He's driving that shoulder up while he blocks this leg. And he does kind of drive him straight back, but you can notice by the way the hand is posting, he's kind of driving him at an angle. So you block this side, you just go like this, like a steering wheel. Daniel Cormier's got these. St. Pierre had one on Thiago Alves. That was incredible at UFC 100. He shot a double expecting Alves to rip him up off of his hips, and when he did, he just turned it into a knee tap. Brilliant, right? So here's the knee tap. He takes him over, and then they come crashing down. He goes right into side control. So this is what I mean when he says, like, it's not quite correct. You can't, how am I? I'm not his BJJ instructor, nor could I ever be, nor am I qualified to be. I'm just noting a couple things that are a little bit not by the textbook. So he gets the seatbelt grip, that part's fine. And I've always been told that the near side hook always goes first. He goes the opposite way and goes over the top. Could have been because he's tired. Maybe he didn't want him to roll. Maybe he just felt like that would be faster for him. But typically you want to go near side hook first, then the other one. You don't want to mount it like a horse. All right? Skip ahead a little bit here. You're going to see now he's got the seatbelt grip. He's going to chair sit, basically, it looks like. He can't get the hook. That's another reason why you don't want to go, because you can get telegraphed and then they can block the hook. So it actually does not get the hook in. But he does have the seatbelt grip. Now he's a little low here. You kind of want to be a little bit higher, but you got the 2-on-1 here. He pulls him back to the correct side. So you want to go to this side. That's the choking arm. You always want to fall towards the choking arm, right? And didn't get the hook in, so he tries to put the other one in, but he's going to, frankly, the easier side to escape from. Why? There's nothing controlling the shoulder. And there's no choke there, right? So this is like, Oezdemir had a moment here, and you're going to see he's going to try, as I go frame by frame here, let me skip ahead, because we're running low on time. You're going to see he tries to get that knee under so that he can switch his hips into him, which he would have been able to do, but I think he was tired and confused, and he doesn't quite get it. He eventually, you'll notice here, gives up on it, right? And just goes, you see that? Anthony gets a little bit higher, So Oezdemir just says F it and just rolls, boom, to his base. That enables Smith to get all the hooks in, right? Let me go a little further. Now look at that hook. Now both are in. He's still on the weak side of the choke. You got to get over to the other side, which is kind of funny. One, it protects them from escaping. Two, I'd actually argue if you can lean on that same side you have the choke, it's actually a little tighter, right? So what does he do? He pushes it in a direction. Hold on here. All right, so now here we are. This is the choke hasn't changed. This was the weak side he was on. This is the strong side he was on. You notice the choking arm comes around, but they're on the weak side, right? So with that weak side, he can't quite get it. So you're going to see, oh, did it freeze up on me again? Hey! Oh, my life is meaningless. My life is meaningless. Point being is, we'll stop it here because we're running out of time anyway. It's actually okay. The point being is, you'll notice here, he has the choke. And folks are asking what the difference was. This is the weak side of the body, and he gets the body triangle on the other side. Now, this is fine because you don't want that foot on the other side, but he's got the choking arm on that one. So what he does is, since I can't fast forward anymore, son of a bitch. Since I can't fast forward anymore, that's fine. What he does is, you go back and notice, he switched sides. So he was here, and he switches to here. Why does he do that? One, because he hand fights. He has to. So Oezdemir hand fights. What Smith does is, he drives his hips in, stretches Oezdemir out, then switches to the strong side here, where the choking arm was to begin with, rotates over, and then when he chokes, he's on the bottom side of the choke. So his whole body is laying right where it needs to in the final sequence. So he just got pulled apart, used it to stretch, switched the side, and then made it work. It was actually a really, really dominant performance. Let me see one thing if I can do here. Can you close the screen here? Thank you. Let's see if we can do this with the time we have remaining. Probably not really. No? That's a bummer. Well, all right. I didn't get a chance to go over the Patrick Cummings fight. We were running out of time anyway. We got to fix this for next time. Why do you think this keeps happening? I know why. Because there is no God. Anyway, doesn't matter. The long story short here is, people had talked about the ground game of Anthony Smith and why, people had discounted it. Again, you're like, oh, Luke, you're focusing on all the errors. No, I'm focusing on the fact that it was really successful, and that in that moment, when someone was hand fighting, he was able to right some of the wrongs that he had created from the initial entries. He cleaned them all up in the process, and then by the time he's able to choke the person, initially has it wrong, is able to stretch him out, switch it, and make that connection. To me, as Danny Segura had noted, you're talking about a guy who had some nice wins over some aging veterans and did it stand up. This was on the ground. Volkan Oezdemir is a tough customer and in his prime. He gutted through fatigue, gutted through a couple of entry errors, corrected it along the way, and got the tap. Folks, that's the very definition of fight IQ. It's the very definition of heart. It's the very definition of ultimately having the right technique and understanding what you did wrong. And ultimately, he got the win, the best win of his career. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Monday Morning Analyst.